The Kareem Dominion had conquered 100 worlds without ever firing a second shot. Their method was elegant. Appear in orbit, broadcast their history of annihilation, and wait. Most civilizations surrendered within hours. When the Dominion's envoy arrived at the edge of the Sol system, their analysts laughed. Earth was loud, divided, drowning in its own transmissions. A species that argued endlessly could never unite against an external threat. The ultimatum was sent anyway: submit governance, surrender orbital space, dismantle militaries. 72 hours. The Dominion's fleets took position beyond Pluto, confident and patient. They expected pleas, panic, and eventually compliance. What they received instead was silence. No response. No negotiation. Earth went quiet. To the Kareem, this confirmed everything they believed. The species was paralyzed by fear. When the countdown reached 0, the Dominion prepared to descend, unaware that silence was not surrender, but coordination. On Earth, the silence was deliberate. For the first time in recorded history, every major power had agreed to shut up and listen. Civilian networks were darkened. Satellites shifted into passive modes. Beneath mountains, beneath oceans, and within orbital shadows, humanity activated protocols written in fear and hope. Generations earlier, when humanity first realized it was not alone, they had asked a single question: what if the first ones we meet are not kind? The answer became doctrine. No centralized command. No single point of failure. Thousands of independent units, trained for decades in secret, were awakened. They were not soldiers in the traditional sense. They were engineers, pilots, linguists, medics, farmers, people who had volunteered to become something else if the sky ever darkened. They called themselves the Rain. The Dominion's first mistake was underestimating human logistics. Their second was assuming technology progressed linearly. As Kareem ships crossed Neptune's orbit, their sensors detected anomalies, small, cold objects drifting where none should be. The readings were dismissed as debris. Then the debris moved. Thousands of heat signatures ignited simultaneously, not with a flare of engines, but with controlled burns, precise and quiet. Human vessels did not rise from Earth in a grand fleet. They fell inward from everywhere. Stealth platforms dropped from lunar shadows. Kinetic frames emerged from asteroid belts. Even the Kuiper cloud betrayed them as dormant masses unfolded into weapons. The Kareem fleet began to scatter, but it was too late. Humanity had not met them at the gates. Humanity had surrounded them long before they arrived. The first engagement lasted 12 seconds. That was all it took for the Dominion's confidence to fracture. Human weapons did not target hulls or shields. They targeted assumptions. Communications relays vanished in synchronized bursts. Navigation arrays were blinded by floods of false data. Kareem commanders screamed orders that never reached their crews. Then the warriors came, not ships, but pods, hundreds of thousands of them, accelerating on impossible vectors. They struck like hail, embedding themselves into Dominion vessels. From each pod emerged humans clad in adaptive armor, moving through vacuum and fire as if born to it. They carried tools more than guns, cutters, viruses, gravity anchors. This was not a battle. It was an intrusion. The Dominion had planned for resistance. They had not planned for infestation. On board the Kareem flagship, High Strategist Velith watched systems collapse in cascading failure. Every doctrine they possessed was being rewritten in real time. Humans fought without ranks, without banners, without hesitation. Individuals acted autonomously, yet with terrifying cohesion. When one fell, another adjusted instantly, as if they shared a single mind. Velith demanded to know who commanded them. The answer, Intercepted from a human channel was laughter. There was no commander. Humanity had learned early that leaders could be killed. Ideas were harder to destroy. Each warrior carried the whole plan. Each knew when to advance, when to retreat, and when to die. That was the third mistake of the Dominion, believing courage required hierarchy. The middle days of the war, though days became a meaningless term, were a study in adaptation. The Dominion deployed bioweapons tuned to human DNA. Humans responded by altering themselves mid-conflict, rewriting immune systems on the fly. The Dominion flooded space with autonomous drones. Humans hacked them, then taught them new purposes. Entire battles were fought without a single human casualty, not because humans were invincible, but because they refused to fight where the enemy expected them to be. They attacked supply lines that spanned light years. They collapsed stars into controlled flares to blind sensors. They turned the Dominion's own conquered species against them, broadcasting a simple message: Earth does not demand obedience. Earth offers a choice. That message spread faster than any weapon. On worlds long subjugated, rebellions ignited. Not because humans promised salvation, but because they proved resistance was possible. The Dominion had built its empire on inevitability. Humanity shattered that illusion. Velith watched reports of entire sectors falling into chaos, not from human invasion, but from hope. For the first time in Dominion history, fear was no longer their monopoly. The High Strategist realized too late that Earth had not stayed silent out of weakness. It had stayed silent to listen, to learn how the Dominion thought, how it moved, how it broke its enemies without mercy. And then humanity had responded in kind. The final confrontation did not occur near Earth. Humanity did not need to defend its homeworld. It had already secured it. Instead, the rain followed the Dominion fleet back to its core systems. The Kareem homeworld had never known war. Its skies were clear, its cities unshielded. When human ships emerged from fold space above it, they did not fire. They broadcast images of destroyed fleets, records of conquered worlds, testimonies from species who had survived because humanity intervened. The message was simple and terrifying. This is what you did, and this is what we can do. Surrender was offered, not as a demand, but as an option. The Dominion's ruling council argued for minutes before their world began to burn from internal revolt. Human warriors never set foot on the Kareem homeworld. They didn't need to. The empire collapsed under the weight of its own cruelty. Systems declared independence. Fleets defected or self-destructed. Velith, captured but alive, was brought aboard a human vessel. He expected execution. Instead, he was given food, medical care, and a chance to speak. He asked the question that haunted him since the first engagement. Why? Why fight this way? Why not rule, conquer, dominate as the Dominion had? The human who answered him was not a general, but a historian. Because, she said, we've tried that. And we almost destroyed ourselves. In the aftermath, Earth did not become an empire. It became a warning. Human envoys traveled the stars, not in warships, but in open vessels, offering knowledge, trade, and defense pacts. The rain did not disband. They returned to their lives, to farms and laboratories, to families who had always known they might one day fall from the sky. New species began to tell stories, not of the terrifying Dominion, but of the quiet world that listened, waited, and then answered with thunder.